Let me read to you a passage from the 19th chapter of St. Matthew's Gospel, verses 13 to 15. It's the Gospel for Saturday of the 19th week in Ordinary Time, Year 2. St. Matthew writes, "Then little children were brought to Jesus for him to place his hands on them and pray for them. But the disciples rebuked those who brought them. Jesus said, 'Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these.' When he had placed his hands on them, he went on from there." That's from Matthew chapter 19, verses 13 to 15. And what does it suggest to us? Well, just consider our gospel scene today that I read. Our Lord is immersed in his ministry for the crowds, and power is going out from him as it usually did. He preached, he taught, he healed. At times he forgave sins. And in the midst of his busy and exhausting ministry, parents bring their children for him to bless them with his prayer. Our Lord's disciples, undoubtedly thinking of their weary master, actively discourage parents from imposing on Jesus in this way and try to turn them away from him. But our Lord rebukes them and welcomes the children with their parents and readily places his hands on them, a gesture showing the blessing that he is conferring on them. He loved children and said that it was to such as these that the kingdom of heaven belongs. Consider for a moment the power of his blessing. At a word, he could quell a storm. At a word, he could raise a person from the dead or heal his paralysis. At a word, he could drive out demons. How wonderful must his blessing have been. Consider the mother who with faith brought her child before him, and consider the child who with trust and openness received his blessing. The child would have been blessed indeed, and who knows what it may have led to in the lives of the children our Lord blessed. Well then, let us apply this simple scene to ourselves. The same Jesus is always near, especially if we have been baptized into him. Our Lord often said that unless we become like little children, we shall never enter the kingdom of heaven. He invites us to approach him like little children. Well then, in a spirit of faith, we ought often and even daily approach our Lord in prayer in the spirit of the children of our gospel passage and ask for his blessing. We ought to ask him to bless our days, our undertakings, our daily duties. Every time we even eat, we have the opportunity in our grace before meals to ask Jesus to bless us and his gifts, which due to his goodness we're about to receive. And the same thing applies to all we do and receive. Apart from endeavouring to approach Jesus in the spirit of a little child, we ought to do all we can to introduce children to Jesus. What a wonderful thing if, due to our example or our word or due to some other action we take, a child is introduced to the unseen living Jesus. And there are so many ways the Christian can assist children to come to know Jesus. For instance, in every town there is a school, a public school. At least in Australia, the public school has in place the opportunity for authorized volunteers to teach the Christian faith regularly to its pupils. That is a wonderful opportunity to introduce the child to Jesus. And thousands of volunteers do this throughout the nation. What good they do! They are like the parents who brought their children to Jesus for him to lay his hands on them and give his blessing. That is what the volunteer religion teacher in the public school is doing. He or she is inviting the child to come to know Jesus and to step forward in prayer, to meet him, and obtain his blessing, indeed to become his disciple. And what a beautiful thing it is if, due to these efforts, a child, in fact, does just this. And there have been children who have come to know Jesus profoundly, and who have set out on the path, as children, of a profound friendship with him. All too often, this opportunity is missed, and the child learns rather the path of sin. So what is it to be for the average child? Is it to be Jesus, or is it to be sin? Every adult ought to ask himself or herself that question, and ask what he or she is doing and is going to do about it. One of the great gains in recent years has been the new sense of the importance and the rights of the child, even though there is the profound anomaly of a disregard of the rights of the unborn child. Well then, when we think of the rights of the child, the first and greatest right we ought to think of is the right of the child to come to know God. God in the person of Christ his Son. What can we do to help the child to come to know Jesus and to receive the blessings that he came among us to give? As we think of our gospel passage today, in which children are brought to Jesus for his blessing, let us resolve to be like those children ourselves in our desire for the blessing of Jesus. Let us approach him with a childlike dependence on him, asking for his favours. Let us also have a profound reverence for each child, and do all we can to assist every child to come to know and love the risen Jesus, and to desire his blessing. How Christ must have loved each child!